Okay, chapter 21 is a brief chapter because it simply closes out our section on the moods. The imperative is the one with the most contingency and closes out all the moods that we need to know. Of course, it's outside the indicative as well. It has the highest degree of contingency because you can command something, but you cannot control the outcome. And a command does not exist in the first person. So in English, we only have it in the second person. It has its own endings, but the good news is they are extremely distinctive, except for the second person plural. So take a look at it. Of course, like I said, they don't exist in the first person. So some second person action and third person action. So the only thing you can do is memorize these, but they will stand out like a sore thumb. So it's pretty distinctive. And let's for a moment look over here, because now we can put the picture together. So remember, it's a degree of reality. As the idea of reality decreases, contingency increases. So you can command somebody to clean up the street, but you have no control over the reality of that outcome. Whereas in the indicative, we assumed that that was going to happen. So now we're looking at the imperative. It's the mode of command, and you can bark all day long, but there's quite a contingency increased in it. So maybe this is a strong case against barking pastors and leaders in this whole business model that we have nowadays of pastors. I just didn't see Jesus bark at people. Oh, well, let me get back to grammar. How about that, huh? So here we go, servant leadership models. So we have these explicit endings, and Stevens gives a couple of reminders here. Look how distinctive theta iota is. We really don't see it. Even if you add an aorist to it, theta eta, you get theta eta, theta iota. It is absolutely distinctive. You will see it. Sometimes in the second singular middle, that might be a little bit confusing because your sigma omicron might contract. But still, you will see a circumflex then whenever that has happened. And the third person endings are totally unique. The tau omega or the sto, they are really dead giveaways. So remember, we're outside the indicative, so you will not see augments. Perfects are pretty rare. And so here are some examples of these paradigms, and you pick up on them. Bare endings that make no sense. Tau omega. Of course, these are kind of like the ones that you have to decide from the context what it might be, right? But then the third plural, those are dead giveaways. We have them for ourselves. You command that you do this with the action benefiting self. And then something can be commanded to be done by an outside force. So you can demand that the Holy Spirit be subject to the force of the Holy Spirit. Paul says, be ye transformed. Let the Holy Spirit do the transforming work in you. We're still outside the indicative, so the negative is used in the form of may. We have an imperatival form of a me. It's enclitic, and so here you see that it's starkly distinctive. You'll pick up on that. We don't see them a whole lot. So I would write vocabulary cards for that. So how do you translate that? Well, again, it may all kind of run over into one another because we're not going to stress action time, just action kind. You will have the mode of command, and we see this in the Gospels. I say to this ruler go, and he goes, and Jesus is talking about faith here. So it's this assumption that the person then will comply, but Jesus doesn't even think that it happens every time. So when he sees it, he recognizes it as faith. The idea of prohibition again. And if the action at the moment is going, then Jesus might call for something to cease. Stop judging. Stop making my Father's house a marketplace. You've been doing this for a while now. You need to stop doing that. Sometimes it could be a form of a polite request. Lord, save me. We're not commanding the Lord to save him. This is also where the Lord's Prayer comes in. Give us today our daily bread. Those are all modes of command, the imperatives. And we're not telling the sovereign God to give goodies to his created beings, but we're actually pleading with him, Lord, would you mind, please, as the most holy God, to us, your created beings, would you give us your daily bread? And we may request permission. And then we have idu and ide. We often leave that translated as kind of like archaic English. Those are actually imperatives, and we see them a lot. Well, and that's all there is to the moods.